Welcome to this short video about our conference transition to a system called Ministry Safe and our conference broader policy on safe sanctuaries. I'm Connie Gibson, the Dean of the Cabinet, and I'm joined today by Derrek Belase, our Director of Connectional Ministries, and Bob Spinks, our Conference Scouting Coordinator. So Derrek, tell us a little about Ministry Safe and our transition to this new safety system.
Sure. Thanks for joining us. Ministry Safe is a platform. It's a technological platform. It's web-based. It is provided to us by Philadelphia, which is a part of our liability insurance carrier services that are offered to annual conferences. Ministry Safe provides for online safe sanctuary training, as well as background checks for local churches. The annual conference is transitioning to this across the board for all of our ministries. So for clergy, credentialing background checks, and for all the volunteer background checks that we do around camps and around volunteers and mission. But more importantly, Connie, we're offering this to all of our local churches free of charge. So the access to Ministry Safe's online training platform is offered to all of our churches, and the ability to transition their background check program to Ministry Safe. We believe that the Ministry Safe background checks provide more protection and are more thorough than some of the companies that we have researched. We understand that this is a change for our local churches. They have been using People First or Track One for a long time. We also understand that we've transitioned before. We used to actually do all of our background checks on paper, and downstairs was filled with filing cabinets of people's personal data. These systems are much more secure, much more user-friendly. The other great thing about Ministry Safe that people should know is that it's very mobile device friendly, and so it's really easy to use on mobile devices. We recognize that not everybody's using desktops these days, and so it's a well-rounded platform that we believe is going to be very helpful as our conference transitions to Ministry Safe and to this platform.
Thank you, Derrek. Well, Bob, you have extensive experience in scouting and other nonprofits. Talk a little bit about why it's important for protection policies to really be implemented and followed.
Well, first, Connie, thank you and Derrek for allowing me to be part of this conversation. I've been involved in scouting for 60 years, and I've certainly seen a lot of changes in our program and how we've had to address the challenges of society. We started back in the early 80s putting in place a much more rigorous evaluation process for any adult who was going to work with young people in our program. And let's face it, the bottom line for any of this is to allow the church, allow the nonprofit, in our case the scouting program, to do what our mission is. And that's in whatever broad way, serving people. And so a policy is important because it creates the right message that you want to deliver to people who are going to come and be involved with you. And I could show you the data that we've looked at extensively in the last 2 years, that from the time we put that in place, the number of actual problems we've had with any kind of abuse or inappropriate behavior dropped precipitously all over the country. So having that in place by itself was a message to people that we're serious about this. But I would also add that it isn't enough to just have a policy. And this is one of the things I know Derrek and I have talked about, is that you have to have a procedural way of implementing that policy. And I know in the local Scout Council here in Oklahoma City, we were led through that process by a federal judge who's very involved in our program. So, for example, if you're going to have an event, it's not enough to say we're going to have an event. You have to follow very specific steps on how you're going to keep everybody safe and healthy in that event. And in the case of our churches, it's really the same. You know, if you're allowing contact with young people that's one-on-one, that potentially is a problem. And I know for our ministers that's very challenging because of your counseling responsibilities, but it really goes much farther beyond that. If you're having activities where a single adult is driving a group of youth in a church van someplace, that's a problem, because you need at least 2 adults. You really need 2 people who can drive the van in case something happens. So there are just all kinds of implementation things you have to think about as well. But it's all there to protect us and make sure we can do what we promise people we're going to do, whether it's the church or the nonprofit.
Great, thank you. So Derrek, tell us more about what's in Ministry Safe and how congregations can use it.
Well, actually, what Bob just said is what's included in Ministry Safe. When he was talking about how do you have procedures to do this, these kinds of things, that's what Ministry Safe provides us. So Ministry Safe basically kind of breaks their program into 5 steps that are actually pretty easy to remember. There's awareness training, and that's the online training that every church can offer for free to its members and its leaders. There's skillful screening, and that is making sure that the people that you have volunteering for you are people that you know, and so Ministry Safe offers some screening tools. Then there's the creation of policies and procedures that Bob was just talking about, and they offer standard procedures, as do we on the website. Then the background checks, so that's the 4th part. You can access the background checks through Ministry Safe, and that way you use one platform to keep track of whether a person's done the training and whether or not they've done the background check. You can keep up with that for the every 2-year cycle that those need to be done. And then 5th, they provide ways for you to monitor and provide oversight by using their platform. So the thing about Ministry Safe is it's all inclusive. So you can track the background check, you can track the screening that you've done, you can track the training that they've done, you can see that it's happening on the every 2-year rotation. We understand that there's going to be a bit of a transition for some churches. If you're currently using track 1 for your background checks, you may not want to run background checks until they need to be renewed, but you can also keep track of that on the same platform. So it really is all inclusive. It's a great way to be able to do the things that Bob was just talking about, to have the appropriate policies and procedures in place, to have the training and the background, but most importantly, for local churches to be able to keep track of that on a centralized platform that is also web-based, so it's available wherever people are at.
Okay. While the conference has safe sanctuary policies that guide our ministries, I know it's also very important for the local churches to adopt their own policies and just be sure that they follow them. And so, Bob, in your experience, maybe outside of lawsuits and legal matters, what happens when policies are not implemented and followed?
Connie, that's a great question, and it really comes down to reputation. If you want to see your organization's reputation stay strong and your ability to fulfill your mission stay active, you have to do the things that are right and that are policy driven. And I know that's not anything any of us like. The word policy kind of makes us all nervous anyway, but and let's face it, the Methodist Church and the Boy Scouts of America have all kinds of policies, right? But it really is about the reputation. And and I tell my students in our nonprofit program at OCU this, protecting your organization's reputation is probably the most important thing you as a director can do. Because if it goes away, it takes decades, if ever, to return to where you were. Because people have long memories, and it's very, very hard to kill a bad impression. And so, that would be my thinking on that for all of our churches. And, Derrek, you used the word offer. I'd like to be a little stronger than that. I don't think we have a choice anymore. We have to require people to do these things. I know that's uncomfortable. But if we're going to avoid the kinds of things we're talking about, and let's face it, litigation by itself is an ugly experience. If we're going to avoid those things, we have got to be more intentional, I think is our
And
favorite word.
that's probably a good point. The annual conference, of course, does require local churches, as Connie mentioned, to have safe sanctuary policies and to follow them. What we're using with Ministry Safe, and the reason I use the word offer, is that we believe this is a tool that better helps local churches implement the things they're required to do.
Right.
And so it has been a great opportunity to work with our own liability insurance carriers, but also to work around some of the issues that we've talked about today. We all know that lawsuits and litigation are a part of what we're facing. And so it is important to do that, but it is more important to protect children and youth, and as you said, to uphold the reputation of our institution.
Derrek, if I could add to that, I know one of the things we're looking at here in the conference is the fact that our churches, they sponsor different programs. I'm here representing, in some ways, the Boy Scout program, but I'm really here representing all of those because that's my responsibility to help you all. But, if they have Girl Scouting, if they have 4-H, if they have any outside entity that comes in and provides programming, I would encourage the churches to ask a lot of questions about what those groups are doing to make sure they are protecting everybody as well, because the church, as the sponsor, still has a pretty important stake in that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Certainly. Well, Derrek and Bob, thank you for all your work that you've done in this area. And Derrek, as we wrap up, where can people go if they want to find out more information about what we've discussed today?
Sure. So we try to make this very simple. You can, of course, go to Ministry Safe's website, but even more importantly, if you just go to okumc.org/safe_sanctuary, which will appear on the screen, and you can find it on our website, you'll be able to find all the information that we've talked about, not only today, but information about how to access Ministry Safe. Every Oklahoma United Methodist Church has been set up an account at Ministry Safe. They've created an account for you. There are instructions on how to access your account and get started. And in our office, you can contact Adriana Trejo. Her email address is atrejo@okumc.org, and she can answer frontline questions that you have about that. We also understand that some of you may continue to use Track 1 or People First for a while, and so we're leaving up through December 31st of this calendar year, 2022, information on how to use Track 1. But you do have to make an extra click to find that, because we want you to have the information about Ministry Safe so that you can begin your transition to that. If you have further questions, please reach out to the annual conference at any time. We're happy to answer these questions, and thanks for taking time to view this video and to understand more about our transition to Ministry Safe. Thank you very much.